it super short and sweet. Thanks, Joey, so much for inviting me to join today. Great plug on Abaca so far. I'm happy to drop the link to our Abaca tool, which is free for entrepreneurs and investors everywhere, not just in Atlanta, not just here in Washington, D.C. Really grateful for our partnership with Joey, which, as he mentioned, started prior to 2019. We worked together on a shorter program in Atlanta, and it only took one trip to Atlanta to realize how special the ecosystem was and the partnerships that we had built. So we're just really thankful to have gotten the opportunity to continue working with Goody Nation, seeing the investment readiness and sort of Abaca framework grow, and grateful to learn as much as we do from Joey and his team about how the framework is working or not working. We're always trying to improve it and make it an easier way to access, and a tool that's free in perpetuity. So really excited to keep working on this for another year with Goody Nation and a cohort of other ecosystem developers across the US. Very glad to be here, and I'll drop my contact information at the bottom along with Abaca. If anyone has any questions or follow-ups, I'm happy to answer, but mostly here to learn from all the panelists today.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. So, 1 second. And then 2 weeks, so that was last May, at the end of May, right before Memorial Day, if my memory serves me correctly. 2 weeks later, SOCAP brought their Spectrum conference to Atlanta, which focuses on gathering change makers to create an inclusive impact economy, said really plainly supporting founders of color to close the racial wealth gap. And so I stood on stage and I talked about what it's like to create an intentional culture to support diverse-led startups in Atlanta and across the nation. And so today we have Keisha Center from the Solution Center and also from SOCAP to give a few words. Keisha, you there?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great, thank you, Joey, for having me. And it's just a pleasure to be on the panel, on the virtual panel with everyone that is here, and to see so many participants that are active in the chat. As Joey said, I am here on behalf of Spectrum, and I am so excited to talk about quickly and briefly what we're doing at Spectrum and how I hope everyone can be involved. I'm going to drop a link in the chat when I'm done, so because we would love for people to still come and join us. But you know, we launched Spectrum last year in 2019 in Atlanta, and when we were thinking about this, SOCAP team was thinking about doing this. And they told me that they wanted to go to Atlanta. The first person I said we had to call was Joey Womack, and it's just been a great relationship from there. Joey and I have been friends since our college years at FAMU, but the work that he's doing in Atlanta and the innovation that's happening in Atlanta, that was really a part of why we needed to have these conversations in Atlanta, in addition to the history and the culture that is that thrives in Atlanta. I live in Los Angeles, but as you can see, I have on my Atlanta influence everything, because I fundamentally believe conversations start in Atlanta and change starts in Atlanta, and Spectrum wanted to be a part of that. So next week we should be at the gathering spot with Ryan Wilson, convening over 300 entrepreneurs and leaders of color from all around the country, but we will be virtual and we'll be online. And in 2021, I hope we'll be back in Atlanta and back at the gathering spot. You know, we created Spectrum, quite frankly, as Joey said, because we wanted to be intentional about the need to drive more capital to entrepreneurs of color. The numbers, we all know them. Entrepreneurs of color are woefully underfunded, underrepresented, lack of tools, lack of sourcing and resources. And so Spectrum is designed to bring all those people together and to identify tangible ways that we can drive change. So next week, we will convene June 9th through 11th, and I will drop in the link in right now. We will convene for 3 days entrepreneurs from all over the country, as well as leaders and change makers across sectors, across the business sector, across the innovation sectors, capital allocators, to talk about how we're going to drive change. We're lucky that yesterday we just confirmed an address from Stacey Abrams. We'll also have the Fortune magazine in attendance, as well as Prudential, Ford Motor Fund, Reinvest Capital. The list goes on, and I am truly excited about this. One of the key things that we're very thankful to be working with Village Capital and Joey again to be offering scholarships for 35 entrepreneurs to attend Spectrum, and not only attend, have tools and resources that help them and meet them wherever they are in their development stage, and how we can drive and help and change and build their programs. Additionally, next week we will be launching nominations for 25 game-changing entrepreneurs of color. It's a digital magazine that we started last year, and we'll continue this year to identify those entrepreneurs who are innovating across tech, across health, across social justice, and even this year, because we've got to have COVID-19 in there too. We saw entrepreneurs stand in the gap where government and bureaucracy couldn't, to help protect and recreate what they're doing, what was needed on the ground. When masks were missing, we saw entrepreneurs jump in and save. So I'm just really excited. It is a convening that I would say things come out of it. Partnerships are built and relationships are built. Intentionally good was one of the key things that I love to talk about, that I feel like put some of the right people in the room at Spectrum and hopefully spark some ideas. And we're here today. So I'm just really thankful, and I hope that we see some of you all there. Please feel free to contact me, ask any questions, and the links in the chat. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, mid-May, we sit down at the gathering spot. 2 weeks later, Village Capital notifies us of this Accelerator Curriculum Data Collection Grant. 2 weeks later, or after that, I'm standing on stage at Spectrum. And 2 weeks after that, on June 24th, 4:32 p.m., I'm sitting in the barbershop waiting to get my hair cut. Not that I really need it these days, but I received an email from this guy named Sergio saying that Goody Nation has been selected to receive the Tech Done Right grant, one of 8 people, one of 8 organizations across the country, or one of 10, excuse me. And I let out an audible O and expletive, quite honestly. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm gonna put Sergio on the spot a little bit. They were like, we're going live with this announcement in 10 days. We were like, oh, we actually really have to make this intentionally good project happen. So it started a chain reaction of immense change. And so, Sergio, you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Joey. I love hearing that story. I didn't realize you were at a barbershop when you got that announcement. Awesome. Well, thank you, Joey. I appreciate you inviting me to share this space with you. I just wanted to share that some of the feelings that I've been feeling this week, and I'm sure some of you have as well. Everything from heartbreak, anguish, anxiety, and anger during the last week. The protests we're seeing across 50 states stem from decades of systemic oppression and racism. So I really appreciate holding this space with all of you. I want to share the importance of spaces and organizations like Goody Nation who are doing this work. I could say that too often in tech and philanthropy as well, we struggle as people of color to break barriers. Whether it's because our product isn't good enough or our program approach is small and unproven. All of this, quite frankly, is coded BS for the low expectations of institutions that suppress our creative genius, hustle, and drive. So when we launched the Tech Done Right Challenge in March 2019, our sole mission was to build a platform that would identify rising leaders of color who were focused on tackling the barriers facing historically underrepresented and underserved groups across tech companies, tech entrepreneurship, or venture capital. We're all too familiar with these barriers. I remember spending 2 months traveling across the country, talking to leaders like Joey in Atlanta. And each conversation I left inspired and really energized to see people of color leading their communities in the fight against systemic oppression, racism, and bias. Goody Nation is working day in, day out to connect the dots between founders, investors, and corporations. And we're seeing that with our other partners and across a dozen cities in our Tech Done Right cohort. These voices are being elevated. These are founders who have oftentimes been underestimated or sometimes underfunded. I know as a funding community, we have ways to go to ensure the sustainability of these organizations, to ensure that we continue to have amazing community leaders and business leaders rise. As an entrepreneur myself, which honestly began 6 months ago, so I'm still new to the game, I understand the struggle already. We're made to believe that our business models aren't good enough or that we're not good enough. However, I've quickly learned that the problem is really with those in power and that they're uncomfortable with our drive and strength to build multi-million-dollar businesses. I'm reminded of some of the inequities we're up against. This is something I recently came across. White families have substantially more wealth than Black families. The median net worth of a white household is 10 times the median net worth of Black households. This isn't by accident. This is by design. The tech industry is also complicit in our struggle for racial justice and equality, right? So as we continue to build and support the capacity of organizations like Goody Nations and the other 9 Tech Done Right Challenge grant partners across a dozen US cities, LA, Baltimore, the Bay Area, we want to ensure that we continue to amplify the voices of this network of leaders who are impacting their communities and building solutions that increase inclusion across tech companies, entrepreneurship, and VC. But also improve our workforce, our local economy, and build generational wealth for our families. I don't want to keep taking up too much time. I just want to reiterate, I'm here for you, and I stand with you during this difficult time in our country's history. And, Joey, I can't thank you enough for all of the work that you're doing in Atlanta. I really think that you're doing an incredible job leading the way and really connecting people of color to and access to these to the networks that we oftentimes don't have access to. So thanks again, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, and thank you for speaking that truth of what Rich said in the chat. So I'm going to quickly set some context, give it like 5 more minutes and do some thank yous, and then we'll go into our first panel. Share my screen quickly. So after Sergio sent that email, a lot of stuff really started to happen. The Intentionally Good project was really born at that moment. And so a few different things started to happen. One, our mission is to accelerate relationships between diverse-led startups and social impact startups, to influencers for key endorsements and paid pilots, to large companies to influencers for for endorsements and key advisor roles, to large companies for paid pilots and strategic partnerships, and to investors for capital. And so we call this design of the program the process. And so a lot of the founders that we deal with are really familiar with when I say the process. And so here's what the process really looks like. Our objective with the Intentionally Good project, our primary one, is to get our founders to a profitable business model. Going back to the ABACA rubric, we're really looking to get founders a venture investment level 5 at the minimum. Also, our objectives for this pilot year were to really determine how long a startup needed to stick in the program, if actual pilots would actually move the needle, and also if endorsements from influential people would move the needle as well. Now, our goals were really based on this design of the program. First, we would work with pre-accelerators, accelerators, incubators, and other key stakeholders from the ecosystem to identify high potential startups. We would then take the startups that were sitting at venture investment levels 2 or 3, those that either have really evidence of a value proposition or really setting their vision, and then layer in mentors, workshops, accountability partners. We set OKRs of them to improve. Those that then level up and then start to have, they start to really validate their investable market, are then introduced to high-powered social networks and opportunities. And then those that move on to a profitable business model and then start to move beyond early adopters really then are then directly connected to influencers, corporations, and to investors. And so our goals were this: in a year, we want to identify 250 local startups. We want to get at least 50 in our pipeline. And quite honestly, we just wanted to make 30 connections to investors, 30 connections to corporate people, and then 30 connections to influencers. I think we really helped hit those marks. So here's what we did, and here's how it really evolved. So the first thing we did out the gate, we had actually a dinner, partnered with Venture Atlanta for that. We sponsored a huge event for Atlanta Black Tech for this 2019 State of Atlanta Black Tech Startup Ecosystem. We started a cohort in the fall of 2019 and had various evaluation sessions at Google Atlanta, at ATDC, and Porsche. Had a lot of workshops from people like Rich Cannon on B2B sales. In January of this year, we actually moved from a cohort model to a rolling admission model. And then we started to grant scholarships to select startups to get into WeWork Labs, where we were able to work with them on a daily basis as opposed to every 2 weeks. And then we did a bunch of other things. We created relationships through coffee meetups with women founders and investors and mentors, with tech storytellers. We did an awesome Future of Tech session with Moxie, and held various other events. And then also from an opportunity standpoint, we got a number of startups into Venture Atlanta. We then got them into the Revolt Summit pitch competition, as well as getting them into programs like SoftBank's Accelerator, as well as scholarships for the upcoming SoCal Spectrum Conference. And so some amazing startups are in our pipeline, from Ingenuity to Trends VC. There are over 50 here. I'm not going to name them all, including some that has kind of gotten to the pipeline recently. Many of them are on the webinar today. We really look forward to working with them later. In terms of some of the other kind of impacts, we made tons and tons of connections, over 60 influencer connections. Startups in the pipeline received over $2 million in investments and/or pitch competition winnings, and some of them got pilots with Delta, Mailchimp, Porsche, and more. Suffice it to say, the process really works. And so the Intentionally Good project is not really Goody Nations. We're leading this, but this is a true ecosystem initiative. And so we wanted to say thank you. The ecosystem really came together. So financially, Google for Startups supported Verizon, Athena Health, Procter & Gamble alumni, Travelers, Loeb Atlanta, and also Venture Atlanta. We had some amazing partners that also worked with us from a in-kind sponsorship perspective, especially around venues, from the Gathering Spot to Porsche to Moxie to Google Atlanta and to WeWork. And also, we can't thank enough our Raise for Good team, coordinated through Cape Poor Center, for helping us to really understand our vision and the behavior change there. And then we look forward to working with them even more. Tons of other organizations locally are ecosystem partners, and we work with them in various capacities, from Collab to Beyond the Game Network to the Metro Atlanta Chamber and Startup Atlanta. Tons and tons of organizations. And then we have some awesome advisors who've given me in particular some advice late at night, way too many hours. I truly appreciate it. And then we gathered some amazing evaluators who evaluated the corporate readiness, the investor readiness, the influencer readiness, and also the brand capacity of the startups as well. Thank you all so much. We pulled together an amazing list of speakers and mentors, and so we're really mentor driven. Again, the Atlanta community came out deep for this, and I'm really excited for the next steps. And we also had a number of individual donors who contributed throughout the year, including for today's summit as well. But more importantly, we could not do this alone. It's not about me. We have an amazing team. So I'll stop sharing the screen, And Miriam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Hi, guys. It's me again. I'm the operations manager for Goody Nation. I help with logistics and things of that nature, but my niche is definitely marketing. I just want to thank everybody for being here. Like, this is definitely a time where we all need to be working as a community to make sure that we are building, like Sergio said, generational wealth across the board. So thank you guys again for being here.
Awesome. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Ashley Cleveland. I support Joey with the Intentionally Good project around community management. So that means aggregating leadership, influencers, and a support network of folks that can really help to provide access and information to the startups, as well as opportunity to help them scale. Thank you all for your voices, your support, and your insight today. The energy is amazing and incredible, and I'm really excited about what's going to take place today that will allow us to catapult these startups into this next part of the Intentionally Good journey. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Blanca?
Hey everybody, so great to see you all. If I don't know you, my name is Blanca Catalina Garcia. I get to work here as part of the Intentionally Good project as a startup education. So I'm in charge of that, and I'm also the ecosystem builder in residence, and have really had the honor to be in the full-on stages of building the Intentionally Good project and working with Joey to get the programming and the capacity building piece of our project going. And you know, I'm just really excited to hear the energy today. I think we have an opportunity now to highlight a problem that I think we all know what it is, and we are being intentional and strategic in the work that we're doing to elevate these amazing companies and to move forward into the new economy with these companies. So I'm really excited to have you all here and looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. And then Raquel?
Hello, everyone. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us today to learn about the Intentionally Good project. I am the marketing manager for Goody Nation, and I look forward to seeing you guys on social media. I have dropped our social media platforms in the chat. We would love if you guys can give us a follow and also share your experience and things that you've learned about Intentionally Good project with your networks your colleagues, and your friends. And also too, we'll have some call to actions later of how you can still support us, partner with us, and donate to the cause. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. And so we also have some amazing other people that have contributed over the last 12 months as well. So Mohammed Kamara, we have Brandy Nagel, Raven Henson, Ermias, Lavelle, Ada, Bianca, and many, many, many more have created, who have contributed tons of hours, lots of stress to help advance the startups here in Atlanta. So let's go to the panel. I've been talking for way too long. Look to hear from some startups, some mentors, some accountability partners. And so this first panel is about how we first prepare startups for introduction. So to be clear, one of the first things that we do is sit down with them, do an evaluation, also provide a rubric, these 8 different categories to identify the 3 strongest areas, weakest areas. For their 3 weakest areas, we set OKRs for them to improve, okay? And so here we have a mix of founders as well as an accountability partner. So please give it up for Hakeem, Ortez, Kent, and Amanda. So we'll kick it off to Ortez first for a quick introduction, and we'll go into questions after that. Just
Sure. So I'm Ortez Good. I am the CEO of Satiri, and we develop a software platform that essentially provides operational readiness KPIs for owners of complex construction projects such as airports or transit agencies.
nice.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Sabria, and I'm the founder of STAT. So we help anybody that's managing a software development team monitor, detect, and mitigate risk in their software development projects. So our app basically keeps track of everything that's going on in your software development projects and delivers a resting pulse rate of that project. We also monitor when that pulse rate spikes and drops, and then helps give recommendations on how to get your software development project back on track.
Nice. And then Hakeem, you there?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Hakeem. I'm one of the co-founders of Unbox, and what we do is that we provide a platform for team leaders to improve team performance and the employee experience.
Nice. And then finally, we have an accountability partner here in Kent. Kent, you there?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Kent Kersey. I am a product leader in Atlanta, but also the leader of Product 404, which is a product management community. And I've been the accountability partner for Amanda and Stat.
Awesome. So we're going to kick it to Amanda and Kent at first. So Amanda, from your perspective, tell us where you were when Intentional Good Project, that first cohort, really kicked off last fall. Some of the things you got from it, some things you learned, and what were some of the outcomes?
Yeah, so our team is incredibly grateful to the Intentionally Good Project. We were coming straight off of a pivot from another company and product that we were building. So we were entering into a new market, new customers, building a completely new product. And we had some tech-enabled service contracts at the time where we were sort of testing this idea around the problem, but we didn't have our full product built completely yet, but we knew that there was some interest around the problem. And so I really applied to the Intentionally Good Project because what I learned in building my last company was that not only is there value in networks, but there's value in information. And a lot of times building a business, it's really sort of templated on the steps that you should take. And I had read all the books and all of that, but I really wanted to be around other people that were following and could help me really understand this template. So I was really going into the Intentionally Good Project looking for a mentor that could help me build a really, really great product. And then someone that could help me think about my customers and building a business model that would help us get to profitability, because our internal founding team decided that we wanted to bootstrap this new company as far as we could. And so coming straight in off of a pilot, I remember my first meeting was with Kent. And I mean, it was 30 minutes and I left that meeting with about 10 to-dos. And that was in September. And so just meeting with Kent, meeting with the other founders, meeting with other mentors that they brought in, it really helped accelerate our growth as a company. And so now it's June. We are starting to onboard our first 15 teams from enterprise companies, high growing startups. Some of those companies are MailChimp, which was one of the partners of Intentionally Good Project. We're almost at the end of exploring teams at Netflix. So, I mean, I don't think that we would be this far this quickly without Kent's mentorship and without really the support from Joey and the Intentionally Good Project.
Nice. So Kent, let's hear it from your perspective. What did you see?
I saw a very passionate and energetic founder that was eager to learn. Amanda's been an incredible founder. I think she has taken the right approach to building this company, one that is founded in humility. We don't have the solution solved yet. We have to listen to our customers to figure it out. And I think Amanda has embraced that challenge. When we sync, and we try to sync fairly regularly, I'm always asking, what have the customers said? What have you learned since we last talked? Because that is absolutely critical to building a good product. And every single time there's something new, Amanda has spent time and effort to figure out, what did we think in the first place that was wrong, and what did we learn since then that has helped us change our trajectory towards a more successful product. And every single time it's a continual journey, right? But she's awesome. She does exactly what she needs to do, and I think you can see the results of that in kind of where she is right now. There's a problem to be solved. Teams recognize it, and they're looking for her to solve it, and that's incredible. That's really what you want to have when you're taking a product to market.
Nice. We're gonna go to Ortez next, and I'm sure I think you have a pretty interesting story of the impact. So walk us through everything that's happened. We started.
Yeah, so this is, it's kind of my second time around. We actually started a software company previously to Satiri, and I always tell everyone I believe we probably made at least 99% of the mistakes that a new founder could possibly make in a startup, right? So a lot of learnings there for us. Ultimately figured out that we needed to do things differently than we were, and that was really the decision to exit my previous company, sell it off to some of our investors, and then try to start this company and do it the right way. So we kind of fast forward. With my co-founder, we kind of landed on a product that we felt we wanted to build, and when we got to the point where we engaged with intentionally good, we had landed a pilot and had converted that pilot over to our first paying customer. And so we were in a good position, but we were also like gasping for air and oxygen just from, digesting that first customer and trying to stay one step ahead of them. The thing that really resonated with me from from the message and the concept around intentionally good, and the value I thought it could bring, was really around understanding that, while certainly there's, what may be defined as white privilege, probably one of the things that impacts us just as much that we don't necessarily talk about as specifically is really the disadvantage of being, say, a minority or a woman. Because with the disadvantage side of it, the system has already existed, right? It's just that we relate to the game, and so we don't know all the rules, and we certainly don't have the experience or the connections in it. And so in that view, for me, it's always been about, you need to be intentional if you're at a disadvantage in order to make progress. And so that message really resonated with me, and kind of the purpose that you guys had laid out for that. I felt like there was something that not only would help us, but it would also allow us to provide our resources and connections to others, right? Because if we're not helping one another, then how can we expect other people to reach out and help us as well? So that was really important for me. And so along the way, I mean, it's been great. We've had incredible connections that we've made, through Intentionally Good. We were planning to kind of forego Venture Atlanta last year, and we obviously were invited to the dinner that you put on with the Venture Atlanta team and some of the rest of the Venture Atlanta startups. And so we decided to go ahead and apply, and were selected as a showcase company last year. And so for us, that kind of unfolded a number of things, so as a part of the program, we had already met Scott Lapano, who's a local venture capitalist here in Atlanta, and he served as one of our mentors along the way as well. Turns out that Scott's father is the CEO of Tampa, and that was our very first market segment, Tampa Airport. So airports were our very first market segment, and so that's opened up a sales opportunity for us that we are continuing to work. So that's been powerful for us. And then, also at Venture Atlanta, we ended up meeting an investor. We met a number of investors, but one of them really resonated with us in terms of the fit. And although we weren't initially planning to raise in that time frame, it's kind of progressed. We've continued to get to know each other. And we ended up signing a term sheet back on March 7th, which, interestingly enough, a week later, flights started getting canceled. And in our market segment, we sell to airports primarily, right? And so revenues dropped off 90%, and it was just been an absolute disaster for our customer segment. However, because of the connections that we've been able to make, one of the things that really helped us along the way was extending and expanding that relationship into the Google for Startups program. And through that, we've been able to meet with some of the seasoned investors at other venture capital firms, and we're able to actually spend some one-on-one time with them strategizing around what do we do. We've got an executed term sheet. The investors are nervous. They're saying we need to see what's happening, et cetera, et cetera. And so that ultimately has led to us being able to get the investors back to the table, completely committed and moving forward. We've been able to actually maintain our original valuation through all of this, and all contracts are now signed, and come tomorrow, knock on wood, we'll have closed our Series A round with a VC. So it's been phenomenal for us.
Nice. Awesome. We're gonna go to Hakeem next. Hakeem, so I'm sure you have some great stories, but I know in particular, no matter what you say, I actually want to talk about that Chamber of Commerce meeting in there. So can you take it away?
Yeah, so back in, was it like September 2019, it's funny, you talked about you were in the barber shop. I was in the gym, remember when you called me, and I was right in the middle of my set and we were talking about it, and we kind of started talking about some of the challenges that we were facing, because we were a gritty team of two. It was myself and my best friend. We had come off a couple of paid pilots with some large organizations. We were transitioning to being more of a product-driven company. But what we had saw was that, like, for us, is that we had somewhat alienated ourselves from our community. We set the goal very early that what validation meant to us, and for that it was customers and it was revenue, and everything else took a back seat to it. So things like structure, things like community, things like learning from others just took a back seat because we were extremely focused on what we were trying to accomplish. And so when I voiced those concerns to you, you said, well, you got to do it intentionally good, and you're going to deliver on everything. So I echo Amanda. What she said is that I'm forever indebted to Joey because he's hit each one of those for us, like from a sense of community. You look at like a Jewel Burks, who I really got to know pretty intimately through Joey, who is ultimately now an investor in our company. We also got to be in communities like the Chamber of Commerce, where we got to meet titans of industry. You're talking about like the presidents of like AT&T and Atlanta United and BlackRock, and then also like the president of like a Georgia Tech and Georgia State, who now I feel comfortable even reaching out to, like now that we're hiring, being able to reach out to the president of a Georgia Tech and say, hey, we're hiring, can you help us find some good engineering talent, right? Like that's something that Intentionally Good opened up the doors for him. Without Joey and the Intentionally Good program, we would have never even had that sense of community or that network, right? He talks about like the high power network that really drives the growth of an organization. And not really and not trivializing that, which I think a lot of people try to do, and say, well, our communities just can't do it, or that we don't have a great product, or we don't have the zeal or the buy-in to be able to do it. And it's like, no, sometimes you do need this community to be able to build a business. And so that's a little bit about like where we were. And now today, from being a profitable company, hitting profitability in December of last year, to where we were able to have our pick up the litter. And a lot of that is attributed to Joey and the structure that they provided. Because we weren't thinking about things like building for tomorrow. We were just like, we got to focus on today. Like, that's what's important. Let's put one foot in front of the other, and everything else doesn't matter, right? It's like, let's not try to look like a business. Let's just build a business, right? And so from that standpoint, even when we went out to raise venture capital, we kind of had our pick of the litter. We were able to meet with some of the large firms and be able to turn down capital. And then I was able to talk to Jewel from the Intentionally Good Network. And I was telling her about like the problems that we were facing because all the VCs wanted to throw too much money at us. And we were just like, we don't need it. Like, we're profitable. We have good runway. And frankly, that's not validation to us, right? Like, we always thought about sustainability. I'm an accountant by trade. I went into investment banking. So for me, it was like, validation isn't going to raise capital, right? That's not validation. Validation, again, is customers. And so I had a conversation with Jewel and sat on a panel, and then afterwards she said, hey, you want to meet this guy in DVC, this guy named Bryce. And then from meeting Bryce, we kicked it off. And within 3 months, he was able to, within 3 weeks, he gave us a commitment to, for what we wanted to raise, and didn't try to pressure us to raise more. And then we were able to do it on our terms. And so that was something that was huge for us. And that's something else that we wouldn't have had network, and Joey really spearheading it. So thanks again, Joey.
Yeah. So I want to give a quick prequel to you alluded to how we was on the panel with Jewel and led to the investment. So the prequel to that, quick thing, the Chamber of Commerce has been a huge supporter. So Hala, Alex, Disha, all of them at the Chamber have been super supporters of our work. And so we met in late August. Long story short, they were like, well, we want you to present this intentional good project to our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Committee. This was like early October. And so they let me see the people on the committee. And one of the people there is the president of Morehouse. And then also somebody from SCAD as well. And so I'm thinking about my presentation. I have roughly 10 minutes, and these are high-powered executives, and you know how that is. And so, you know, I have 10 minutes, and I'm trying to figure out what to say. You know, there's no better way to present our impact when we just bring in startups that can really tell the story even better. Right. And so, to be clear, it was intentional with Hala, Alex, and Disha putting me in that room to present, and Jewel came out as well. And me selecting Hakeem and a few others was because Hakeem went to Morehouse, and so the president of Morehouse was scheduled to be there. And so, again, you're talking about 12 high-powered leaders in Atlanta. He gets up there, crushes his presentation. It's not super long. It may have been, 1 or 2 minutes, something like that. At that meeting is when, I literally saw people start to sit in their seats. And then Jewel told me she started to really look at Unbox even deeper from that meeting. And then it led to the panel, and then it led to the investment. So that's how being intentional, it's another example of how being intentional about putting people in the right rooms and making sure they're prepared can lead to some awesome stuff.
Yeah. And Joe, if I can add something, one of the people in the room was the president of AT&T's prepaid portfolio, right? And after the meeting, it was funny, like the Titans are all talking to each other, moving mountains and stuff, and you're just happy to be in the room, right? And then the president of the prepaid portfolio comes up and just starts having a conversation and dialogue with us and about our business, wanting to learn more about us. And so now that's an opportunity that's within our pipeline. We have direct access to him, where he's not only been giving us advice on things that we're doing within our business, but in how to penetrate other markets as well. Because one of our newest clients, UPS, being in kind of the frontline workforce, that was our first kind of entry into kind of blue collar roles and deploying our technology there. And so he's been extremely instrumental in even helping us, giving us insights into things that he's seen over his career. And so that was something else that just had to highlight on, because that doesn't happen, right? Like, you're not going to get in a lot of these rooms you don't get into, and you certainly aren't going to have a president of a large organization like an AT&T come up to you and say, and show an interest in your business, and it lead to an opportunity. And so that was something that came about because of having access to this room, and Joey being gracious enough to invite myself and a couple other founders there.
Nice. And so in closing out this particular panel, I don't know if Amanda, Kent, or Ortez have anything else they'd like to add.
Thank you.
Yeah, same for me. Certainly keep up the good work that that you're doing for sure. It does make a difference, in lots of people's lives. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think one thing to add is, for anyone on the call, I think a special thank you to Joey, because the Intentionally Good network is so deep. And I think when I first came on, I didn't realize how deep it was. And so, like I said, being at the point we are now and looking back, and just, looking back on everything, Joey, you've done a fantastic job of connecting the dots within Atlanta and around the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say again and kind of reiterate, Joey, you're doing incredible work. This program is awesome, and I can see the impact that it's having quite closely, having worked with Amanda, and I think it's awesome. So, not saying anything that's new. It's just good work, man.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, all of you, and for your hard work. So, before we get on to the next panel, we do have a few key learnings as we evaluated startups. One, it's clear that founder self-awareness, really according to that rubric that we shared earlier, really is the best predictor of success. And so we have this thing where we have the founders take a self-assessment using that rubric, and then we have external people evaluate them as well. And it was clear as day, the smaller the difference between where the founder rated themselves and where the external people rated them, the more likely it was for the founder or for that startup to go on to become profitable or bring in users, customers, investors, partners, things like that. Also in Atlanta, we realized there are lots of great startups in the pipeline. The pipeline is not necessarily the issue. We do, however, see that a lot of startups are clumped around the level 3 area, meaning that they have evidence of a value proposition, but they can't really get over the hump yet. And so it may take about 12 months to really unclog that pipeline in order to get people to become a little bit more profitable and be more able to raise larger sums of money. We can also say, startups are great, but many of the startups that were clumped around level 3 in terms of that rubric were there because essentially they couldn't figure out how to scale to other markets and also how to return money to investors. And so from a key learning areas to improve, areas to attack with founders, especially in Atlanta, it's around market, it's around scale, and it's around investor exit. So thank you all. You're not done yet, so we'll be in contact shortly, but we're gonna move on to the next panel. So everybody, please, I know we can't really see you, but please give, just snap your fingers, to the panelists and all these startups that have been prepared over the last 12 months. Again, thank you so much. So next up, we're going to go to the relationship acceleration panel. And here we have 3 founders, Dahl Levant, Kyle from Rideshare Association, and Lizzie Levine, who are going to specifically be talking around the connections that we made for them. They may even jump on a little bit around how we prepare them as well. So Dahl, are you there?
Good morning.
Hey, morning. Want to do a quick intro?
Sure, I'm Dahl Levant. I am the founder and CEO of Aquagenuity, where water meets ingenuity. We are the Google search for water quality, and you should care because we've learned through the pandemic and everything that we're experiencing now that depending on the government bureaucracy to give us good data to help us live healthy lives is not a great strategy. So we've created a platform to allow you to understand what's in your water and how your environment impacts your health in real time from any smart device.
Awesome. Kyle?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey everyone, Kyle Pavlock, founder of Rideshare Association. We started with a basic premise that shared mobility is the future of transportation. So today we're being really intentional about helping rideshare and delivery drivers become successful entrepreneurs in the gig economy. Our long-term focus is to help people, call it intentionally transition from owning cars to using shared mobility, and to help cities, intentionally implement these types of technologies.
Nice. And then finally, we have Lizzie Levine.
Hey guys, I'm Lizzie Levine, founder and CEO of Ragos. We provide organic period products for women through digital vending machines. We are starting with areas where women are traditionally not supported. So that'd be like airports, stadiums, and we're just really trying to change the way that women are supported on the go.
Awesome. So these startups were also granted or given a co-working space scholarship to WeWork Labs. We're able to work with them on a daily basis in person, at least up until mid-March. And so it really has allowed us to do a lot more in terms of creating deep personal relationships between people, make introductions really on the fly, and then provide them other opportunities kind of along the way. So Dahl, I'm gonna kick it to you first, just to get your experiences, and you even go back to the falls of that first cohort as well, but just your experiences just overall, but especially around some of the opportunities and people that we have kind of put you in contact with.
For sure. Well, first of all, wherever Joey says show up, you just show up, right? So that's how we did Village Capital before, and then that's how we got to Intentionally Good. It's always been amazing, the connections that we make with other founders, as well as some of the opportunities
that have come out of that. So being in WeWork Labs, a great example, just working in the office one night, there was an event, you know, Joey's always having events, y'all know that, in the main area. And I was like working, I didn't even go into the event. So after it was over and people were kind of mingling, I walk out, like, I need a Coke or whatever. And people were kind of chatting. I ended up meeting the team from Republic, which is one of the VCs. They do this unique crowdfunding platform. And later found out, long conversations, only one other Black female has ever kind of raised $1 million or more. Dawn Dixon is a friend of mine. Some of y'all know her. And we were like, what? So we actually got approved to be on Republic VC through just random connection of being a part of WeWork Labs. Because of WeWork and then SoftBank, and we were selected one of only 14 companies for SoftBank's Emerge program, which we were like, yay, another accelerator, cool. And then the first day, the head of global investing, or she says, make no mistake, we're grooming you to be a part of our portfolio. So we were like, what? You know, they're unicorn makers. And so we're now in this very kind of high level network in Silicon Valley. We're supposed to actually be there now for 8 weeks for this program, but we did it virtually. And all of that just came out of relationships and Joey and working consistently daily on this business and this environment and ecosystem.
Awesome, thanks. Kyle, any thoughts?
Yeah, Joey, what can I say? We have permanent advisors now that are connected through you. We, you know, I came from corporate sales, so my network is strong, right? If I want to go sell to public sector entities within Georgia, so I can help, you know, extend that network out sometimes. But you know, when I came into the startup world, it was you know, there's just a lot of people that I had heard of but hadn't met. I mean, anybody from, you know, the Techstars to the Invest Atlanta people to, we've been connected with companies, you know, in New York and in Miami and in California that, you know, we're forming real partnerships with right now. So I think the network has just been incredible. Eric McCarthy particularly has given us some really good, you know, recommendations that we, you know, took to heart and implemented, you know, 100%. So I think that, you know, the intentionally good network particularly has been, you know, phenomenal for us. Just really inspiring people, not a bad attitude around at all. So thank you.
Awesome. Lizzie, there?
Yes, I'm here. So big shout out to you, Joey. Your constant positivity is infectious. And I just think that you do such a good job of really being intentional, key word, funny there, with every way that you empower all of us. And also like the way that you are, you know, you say, hey, Lizzie, do this, you haven't done this, but it's in a way that's like loving and endearing. And it doesn't feel like you're like, down my back being like, Liz, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for really like building a great community in WeWork Labs. Before I get into all of the amazing connections that you've given us, I just think that something I really wanted to hit on was the culture of everyone involved in WeWork Labs and the Intentionally Good project. I think that obviously that's a testament to not only like the companies that are involved, but you set the bar high. We're always collaborating. You know, I've met some of the most incredible people that like Doll and Kyle, and relationships that truly like have excelled me in my business, but just keeping me on track day to day. So before this, I was in college. Like I didn't know anyone. I'm not from Atlanta. So I was fresh into the startup scene, and I was like, you know, I'm going to throw myself in here and here we go. And going into that, just the connections that we've made, got into Google for Startups, which wouldn't have happened without your connections, Joey, which then have led to so many amazing opportunities and people that are also on this call. Spoke with Beyond the Game, who we've been in talks with, and we're going to probably go ahead and move with their accelerator, and they're really closely connected in the sports realm. So that's something that has been really great. And just you know, in general, the positive attitude that you all bring and everyone involved is just, it's great. So I just wanted to thank you so much for everything you do.
Nah, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. It's been a pleasure, a true pleasure working with you all really on a daily basis. And I think Dahl's right. I mean, you never know, like just walking around, you know, Kyle, I'm like, hey, like Amy Love from Invest Atlanta's here, you know, want to meet right quick, or, you know, something like that. I mean, everything's intentional. Some stuff is planned. Some stuff is kind of just spontaneous, so to speak. I don't know if Dahl or Kyle, I mean, Dahl kind of touched on it, but Kyle or Lizzie, if you have any examples, so maybe some of the spontaneous stuff, you're just kind of sitting there and I'm like, hey, or you may receive a text message.
I like that you make it feel spontaneous, but I know there's a lot of, you know, hard work and planning and love that goes behind all of that. So, but yeah, there's constantly, you know, amazing people around. I mean, I think what's really great about the community is, you know, the people that are intentionally being brought in, but then just being surrounded by great people like Dahl and Lizzie, like they're bringing people through as well. I think, you know, Jarrett, you know, is in this community that we somehow got connected to through WIT from, like, we've just really grown our networks exponentially through the program there. And, you know, sitting down, especially what I really like too, is sitting down with 3 or 4 people in a day sometimes. You know, it can be a lot, but you gain a really unique perspective from somebody that's in creative advertising, and somebody that's in a VC and you know, role, and somebody that's wearing, you know, a investment banking hat. So I think it really helps us, you know, take a holistic look at the business, and, you know, just meet great people too. I mean, that's just been the fun part about it. I mean, it's stressful without anybody to talk to, so we love it.
Awesome. I don't know, Lizzie, if you had anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to add to the spontaneous. I think when you introduced me to Brian at Beyond the Game, that was spontaneous, and that maybe it wasn't, but it felt like it was to me. And he has been such a great mentor. Something to add is like the mentor portion of this. Maybe some of the people that you meet with spontaneously, you don't, they don't always like come to fruition, but just having mentors and the expertise to be able to meet with those people is so crucial. Again, like with Brian with Beyond the Game, like now we're probably going to go through their accelerator program. So that was something that you randomly just like pulled me in and were like, hey, Lizzie, meet with Brian. So that was great. So thank you.
Awesome. So before we kind of go to you all for some quick closing thoughts, I want to talk a little bit about, to everyone, some of the key things we learned when being intentional around creating connections for startups. So one thing that was interesting, when we first started this initiative, we assumed that most of the startups would be B2C. We didn't have any data one way or the other, but our assumption was that they would be B2C. And so for them, like celebrity type of influencers would be the thing, the connection point. But what we learned that many of these companies are actually B2B, at least the stronger ones. And so they require a little bit of, they require a different type of influencer. There are some that are B2B2C, but at the end of the day, celebrity type influencers typically will use their social reach to talk to consumers. But when you have B2B companies, it's not necessarily that easy. So we had to pivot a little bit in terms of the type of influential people, or said another way, micro influencers, to really do the endorsement part. We also realized that for connectors, not necessarily the corporations, not necessarily the VCs, not necessarily the influencers themselves really, but for the people that connect to those people, the super connectors, even like myself, startup branding is key. So everything from their logo to their website to their LinkedIn profile to their social media to even how they quickly describe what they do is important for us, so we can feel comfortable putting our social capital on the line to our high-powered networks. Which leads me to the third point, is that we realize that social capital is actually more expensive than financial capital until really about $50,000 or more in actual money. So what I mean by that is I'd much rather write you a check for $40,000 than put my relationships, my high power, my most important relationships on the line if you don't have everything in place. Because I know that if I put you in front of high-powered people, and I say I'm not talking about the panels because they definitely pass the test, but just startups in general, if they don't have everything in place, I got one shot, and if that startup messes up, then it reflects bad on me. So I have to have everything in place, and that goes down to the culture that we build here in the Teach You Good project with the Why Should You Care statement, the quick 5 to 7 word description, just being super tight on everything. And then finally, the ability of the founder to tell a compelling story is critical in their success, fair or not. But what we've seen is that founders that are good at storytelling oftentimes have the most success, especially those, going back to the previous point, especially those that have a high self-awareness. So kind of in closing, Dahl, Kyle, Lizzie, do you have any thoughts on that, or is anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, again, thank you for all the work that you do, but this is kind of my thing that I'm saying now. Entrepreneurship is 21st century activism. So I just want to shout out everybody on this call, all of the founders, family, everybody in this ecosystem for the work that you do. It really matters. And this is how we change the world, is by showing and getting these wins on the board. So I appreciate and shout out to everybody for all the work that you do in the tech ecosystem.
Thanks. Kyle, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe to touch on, sort of that celebrity like endorsement thing, I think you hit it right on the head. It's like, there's mechanisms to get in front of those people. And if your product aligns, sometimes it's just, financial, or maybe you just appeal to them. Lizzie's freaking amazing about just DMing people on Instagram and getting them. And that's how we found, some of our original influencers, but finding the mentors, finding, the people that you've curated is, you can't put a price tag on that. I think that, I'm glad that those resources are there, and, we need celebrities. We'll rack them up for you. So let us know who you need to talk to. We'll get them in there.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Yes, just to echo both of Dahl and Kyle. Joey, thank you so much, and everyone that's involved, thank you. I just wanted to say that I love all of you guys so much, and keep going, because we truly are, just like Dahl said, we are going to change the world, and it starts with us. So don't give up, and everyone can do it. Love you guys.
Love you too. Also, I see Puya here is on the webinar. Give a shout out. So actually another example. So has an awesome podcast coming up. He intentionally offered up some complimentary ad slots to startups, especially in the transportation or logistics mobility space. And so I sent out an email to several and say, hey, this is a good opportunity for you. And those are the social impact as well. This is a great opportunity for you. And I think they're in the process of making that happen. Again, good, free, complimentary advertising. That's probably going to lead to a few deals or something like that for the startup. So again, and he's also contributed complimentary podcasting equipment here in our physical space. So, thanks a ton for Puya and many of the partners kind of along the way. So we're going to move on to our final panel. And I think it's probably the most powerful one to date. It's really, at the end of the day, and I'm going to share my screen here a little bit. This is all about creating a culture, quite honestly. So by culture, with the Intention Good project, we mean something very specific. And so, we talked about our mission around connecting to influencers and large corporations and investors. And ultimately, we kind of hold people's hands, so to speak. And so we talk about culture, we're really talking about everyone's a team. Everyone together, everyone accomplishes more. We want to give advice to startups. We want to make introductions to startups. And we want to be intentional about creating opportunities or sending them opportunities. That's what an Intention Good culture really is about. And so our vision, this really came from our friends from Raised for Good. Now, our long-term vision is a culture where every innovative company in Atlanta, in the US, and worldwide has an official policy to donate either office hours for advice, introductions, or send opportunities to our startups. We want an official policy. It may take 50 years, but we want every company or person, if you consider yourselves innovative, to have an official policy to support our startups, really on a monthly basis. And so, this is a startup ourselves, right? And so as a startup, we'll have an MVP. And where we'll start is a pledge. Now, we were already thinking about this and trying to launch it in Q4, but we want innovate. We're going to start with people and then move on to companies later. In terms of creating culture, we think along the lines of actions leads to habits, habits lead to behaviors, and behaviors lead to culture. And so we want to have people that consider themselves innovative or in the innovation space to sign a pledge online where they commit to doing monthly office hours, introductions, and send opportunities. It could be 2 hours a month, it could be 12 hours a month, whatever it is, or make 10 introductions a month to some of our best or most promising startups. So the reality is that this is the time to do it. Like, we considered doing it in Q4, but with everything going on in the last few days, and the business community has really reached out. We're going to push this thing up to Q3, quite honestly. And so we have some amazing people, our partners with Collab Capital, and also we're going to bring back Hakeem from the previous panel, and we're going to talk about building a culture, and then more importantly, sorry about that, why the time is now to do so. So I believe we have Barry, we have Justin, Hakeem is still on. Barry, you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Intro, and then we'll go for intros, then we'll come back to the topic.
Yeah, won't spend a lot of time on intro, but my name is Barry Givens. I'm one of the managing partners at Collab Capital here in Atlanta, and also the managing director of the Techstars Social Impact Program.
Nice. Justin?
Good afternoon, everyone on the East Coast. My name is Justin Dawkins. I am I'm also a managing partner at Collab Capital, and also the Google Digital Coach for Atlanta, where I serve small business and startups in my daily work. So excited to be here and excited to lend some thoughts to continue the journey with the Intentional Good project.
Cool. And then Hakeem, you still there? Just want to make sure.
Hakeem, still the co-founder of Unboxed.
I love it.
I like the consistency.
let's get into it. Let's first, before we get into the why now, Barry, Justin, you have any thoughts around what it means to be intentional and how to do so in terms of supporting our startups, and also, quite honestly, ecosystem leaders? You all may have stories or not. So startups, ecosystem people as well.
I'll start with Joe. You probably know a story I'm going to start with, but it's one of my favorites in the ecosystem. But long time ago, when our other partner Jewel Burks moved to Atlanta, Justin and Joey, I guess they what you call laid out the red carpet for her. She was moving to Atlanta. There wasn't really a technology ecosystem. They showed her around, blah blah blah. You fast forward, she joins the board at Goody Nation. Obviously, we all become friends. We have all these relationships. And so you fast forward to a couple of years ago, and this Techstars job opportunity comes up, and they actually go to Jewel first. And Jewel's like, I'm still at Amazon, and I can't leave because I'm going to lose a whole bunch of money if I leave. And so, but this person still needs to be a person of color. Like, you guys need to talk to Barry. Intentional. So she gets me in the runnings for the job at Techstars. Fast forward, I get the job at Techstars. I hire a program manager. My program manager had a brother named Ross. And he sets up when I go to Durham, so while I'm doing my recruiting, looking for companies, and he says, hey man, we're about to launch WeWork Labs in Atlanta, and we need a lab manager. And he starts to describe, because I didn't even know what WeWork Labs was. He starts to describe what it is, what he's looking for. And I'm instantly like, you don't even have to interview anybody else. Like, there's this guy named Joey, like, run it. You don't even have to look at anyone else. And as you guys can see, the rest is history. Joey's now the manager at WeWork Labs. Intentionality, like to me, it's about always looking to put other people first and to put other people in positions that you know can make an impact. I don't think there's anyone in the world that can make the impact Joey's making before he was at WeWork, but now having that platform, having an office. And so intentionality to me is about making selfless decisions, even when you're going to get nothing out of it, and building that culture. And I know we'll get into this a little later, but the culture is created by the people that start it, and then people grow up in that culture and they act the same within that culture. And so as we continue to have all these great startups that are on here now, in 4 or 5 years, when they're all, you know, selling their $100-200 million companies, we're not going to have leaders walking around doing selfless giving because they grew up in that environment. They started and ran their companies and grew their companies in this intentionally good environment. And then that's what creates the culture that we want to have here in Atlanta, around intentionally good.
Nice. Justin?
I almost want to just plus one and keep it moving. But I think one of the things that is particularly in this moment in time, which I'm actually very thankful for this summit, because I think it gives us an opportunity to focus on solutions and focus on ways to impact this world in a very positive way, which leads me to my point around intentionality. I think it's about a habit of being intentional. It's not just, you know, what tweet can I send today, or, you know, what thing I can celebrate, or what piece of content I can watch on whatever streaming. But it's really about dedicating yourself to making sure that there's an action item, or to do something that you do every single day to bring about access, which is a part of making things equitable for underserved, underrepresented, and undervalued communities, to be honest with you. So to me, intentionality is all about making a habit of including things and ways to impact the people around you every day. That's what intentionality is about.
So let's go into why now. I don't think, you know, I'm not going to go into it. You all may want to talk about, you know, things that happened in the last few days, last few weeks, you know, example after example after example. Akeem, you have any thoughts on why we need to, you know, be about this culture right
now? Yeah, so I'll take it from a different angle, and I'm gonna say like the now has always been, right? Like it's not like anything like this new that's going on. I think what's new is that the conversations that are being had and the dialogues where it's friends that aren't Black or brown reaching out and seeing and having the same disdain and disgust that they're seeing what's going on. But I want to take it from a different angle, from someone that's like looking up, right, with Barry and Justin and yourself, as someone that's kind of trying to build a path. I think it's like this guy by the name of Frantz Fanon. He was like this psychiatrist, right? This French psychiatrist. And there was these 3 questions that he said you have to confront. The first one is, who am I? Am I really who I am? And am I all out to be? And so thinking solution oriented, I think that we really have to confront as a community individually, like who you are. Like, what is your role that you're playing in the solution? Like whether it's community building, like what Joey's doing, whether it's Barry and Justin, whether it's access to capital and Jewel through Collab Capital. Like you can't get to a point where you can affect any type of change or change a system if you're looking out, right? And so I think the most prudent thing to do is to look internally and say, what is my role in this ultimate solution? And then dedicate yourself to that, right? Like Joey, you had been doing work for decades before Barry was able to say, hey, look, Joey is perfect where we work. Don't interview anyone else. Barry had been doing work as an entrepreneur and had founded other companies, the mixing company with like adult beverages, which I wish I could have tasted one of those, man. I could use one right now. Just to have been doing work in marketing, right? Bridging the gap between like marketing and technology. Like that's something that you guys have been doing and dedicating yourselves to put yourselves at the point you're at now. And it's only the beginning even for you guys. And I'm pretty sure y'all aren't even at your own mountaintops, right? So I'm taking it from like a young entrepreneur. I think that the best thing that any of us can do individually is ask that first question is, who am I? Confront that every day. And then dedicate yourself to that. And then let that be the way that you're producing and almost just living it almost.
Nice, nice. Barry?
Oh man, the intro he gave is like it's so real because man, people have been getting shot and killed and all this other like to make it seem like this moment is like new and like oh like and I'm not saying you were doing that, Joe, but I think society as a whole like oh now's the time and it's like man you didn't do nothing about Ahmaud Arbery like 3 weeks ago and that news hit like so like for me it's not about why now is the right time from a macro level. I think now is the right time because we finally have the right leadership in place that has this attitude. And I think previously in the city, when we were all coming up, there was no one, as Hakeem just mentioned, that we could look up to and say, hey, this is how we want to frame who we are, or this is the path that we want to follow. And we all had to look internally and say, like, the ethos that's around here now is not what I want to be a part of. And we did that kind of individually. And it just so happens that all of us shared a lot of the same ideals and the same ethos, which allowed us to come together. And now we have, I would say, this leadership here in Atlanta that all really cares about the community and is give first. And we want to, and Kim, you mentioned it earlier, we talking to Jewel, like she got to know you first before she introduced you to Bryce, because we're extremely intentional about the founders that we put on. Like we're not putting selfish founders on. Like we get to know Hakeem before we make sure his company's going to be successful. Because if you're an a-hole, we don't care if you black, brown, purple, green. Like we're not going to put you in the room because we don't want you to succeed because you're not going to do right by that success. And so now is the right time because I think we finally have a foundation of who we want to be as a city, specifically in the tech community. And I think now that we have that foundation, is the perfect time to build on top of it. And now the things that are currently happening over the last week, just trying to put a positive spin on some whole bunch of negative stuff. And you mentioned it earlier, Joe, is that I think a lot of people have been awakened. And it just so happens that we've been doing the work for a long time. So we're ready to capture, call it charity money, call it whatever you want to call it. People finally want to do this and give out this money. And call me a charity, whatever you want, as long as I can get the resources. And Joe, you can get the resources. And everyone is called and get the resources to pour it back into the community, I'll take it. And so I just think everything happens for a reason. And right now the iron is hot. And you say it all the time, Joe, like if we leave 2020 and we haven't capitalized and captured all of the positivity that we have going on with our positions and where the city is, like we fail, we drop the ball. Like everything is here. We just have to keep executing.
Nice. So before, Justin, I'm gonna come to you, but I do want a quick note that, again, if you have any questions, please hit that Q&A button down there, and then we'll get to them. It's the easiest way for us to figure out. Chat's popping. Thank you, everyone, for their comments. But if you have any questions, anything with this panel or the previous ones, please drop them in chat, and then we'll get to them. But Justin, any thoughts?
Hakeem and Barry, I should not be going last in this particular question. But I think what I'll say is why now is because we're ready. I think we have sometimes we look in the mirror and we doubt ourselves and we wonder if everything on the stage is in the proper place and is the lighting just right. And, we're perfectionists. A lot of us by, either by trade, we have to be, depending on what your background is, or just, sometimes it's the lack of self-esteem or encouragement, or just not having soil by which our seeds were originally planted in. We didn't necessarily feel like we were worthy. We didn't necessarily feel like this was our job to do in some instances. But I would counter that. I would say that, the faith in me tells me that, we are prepared for this. We were designed to do these things, and we're just being called to stage, right? It's the time to do it. And not happy and take no pleasure in the circumstances or the situation that got us here. But I absolutely believe that we're all called to do something great in the world. And whether, win, lose, or draw, if you've been swinging the bat and it's your time to get up the bat, just take what you have, go up there, use wisdom as best you can, and swing for the fences. And so I think that's where we are. I think that's why now. It's because it's time and we're ready.
Nice. I mean, I've seen Atlanta step up. I've seen companies across the country step up, even some, internationally, people making statements, and now people are, some stuff is been decently generic. Some I do see action being had, or being or the wheels of action turning, so to speak. And I'm extremely hopeful. So I don't know, Akeem, if you want to and we'll come to kind of closing thoughts. But Akeem, go to you first. Anything else?
I always think about like the solutions. I'm gonna like harp on that to the day I die. It's like don't boycott sales, go build a sales, right? It's like sorry, that was a Spike Lee reference. I'm kind of a movie buff too. But my thing is that like there's another book like The Speed of Trust, right? Like start internal, like look at yourself, really define like what it is that you have to do, and then run after that. Be obsessed with that, right? Play that role. Whether you're dolling, you're talking about that you want to provide access to clean water, necessity like that, or if you're an educator like a Blackwell, like that's like what make music count. That's what you should be doing, and that's what you should put all your energy into, and that's going to be the solution. And then when it's ready and you're ready, you're not going to have to look for that next level. First off, you're going to be leveling up, and then you're going to have someone like a Joey or Barry or Jewel or Justin that's going to come and just grab you and say, you're ready, right? Like you've proven it, right? And it's like, but the first thing, prove it to yourself, right? And if you prove it there, then I'm telling you, everything else is just going to take shape. So that's what I'm big on. It's just like focus on like what your role is. And I know we're in UGA, but I like Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. At least this point of them, do your job. So define what your job is, and then just do that, and just take care of that.
Nice, Barry.
Oh man, closing statements. I really want to. We've talked a lot about us and just like the leadership side of things, but we're also at this point now where we have so many amazing entrepreneurs. Where it's kind of when we were coming up, it was like, oh, it's only 10 of y'all, right? And I think it was more. It was just those are the people that were being talked about. But and I can remember vividly being in the hotel in Houston, and we were going through intentionally good applications. And, we were so excited because we had so many. And it was like, man, like so many like dope entrepreneurs out here. And then you fast forward to the event that we had, that Collab had a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whenever time is just a non-existent right now, whatever it was, our pivot and pitch competition, and we had 420 applications come in, just African-American founders. And like it almost brings you to tears. And like we struggled getting it down, right? Like we struggled finding the 80 companies for us to dwindle it down to the top 10, to the top 5. And it's just so much, like we say we're ready as leadership. I think it's also very prudent to say that our entrepreneurs are ready and in need of these resources and in need of capital. And man, if we can just take advantage of all of this stuff, the intellect, the opportunity that's in front of us, like we could be looking 10 years from now where we are competing with Silicon Valley because we have so much, just so much gold to mine right here in Atlanta and beyond. So I'm just extremely happy, even in these sad circumstances that we're living here right now. I'm just extremely opportunistic about what we have in front of us, and happy to be doing it with a lot of the people that are on this call.
Nice. Justin, you want to close us out?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. One is actually about something my wife does now, which I actually love. And at first I was kind of not perturbed, it's not the right word, but I was just curious. I was like, why is she doing these things? But I think it's gone a long way in my personal life, and that's she started writing positive thoughts and manifestations on our mirror in our bathroom, and it got me thinking about intentionality. It got me thinking about the Intention Good Project, and her justification for it was she wanted to be intentional, and she wanted a reminder every single day when she woke up of who she was, what her purpose was, what she, where she was going to show gratitude, to be mindful of her blessings and the gifts, but then also to find that fuel for the day. So maybe after a long night, maybe after a long work day, whenever she's in front of that mirror, whether she's washing her hands, washing her hair, whatever it may be, whatever the reason is, she can always be reminded and see those things. And I think just kind of as a tactical thing, I think the pledge is fantastic. I mean, I'm excited to sign it and promote it. But there's also little things like, writing them down, framing the things that you want to be intentional about. If you're dedicated and committed to solving some of the world's toughest problems, and you're looking for little ways, write 1 or 2 or 3 things down, put it in a frame right next to that family photo. So when you look down and you figure out your why every day, and you realize, oh, I'm doing this for my kids, or I'm doing this for my family, and you see those 3, 4, or 5 manifestations, those 3, 4 things that you want to do, it's right next to those people. And you'll start to see purpose through not just your family and those things, but through that short list. And I think if everybody does something like that, we can chip away at some of the world's largest problems and be intentional about the impact we have on the world.
Nice. Couldn't have said it any better. So, thank you, Barry, Justin, and Akeem. And actually, thank you to the other panelists as well. Everyone, please, and now we can't, aside from the panelists, we can't see everybody, but please clap your hands, snap your fingers, do something, because they did an amazing job. Thank you to the team, to our sponsors. I see Michelle from Verizon, Brian, an advisor, Sarah Saxer. Thank you for all support. Austin, Deeper, Style by Love E, saw Living Book earlier. Thank you, everybody. Dana, Mentors, Tanya from Women Do Everything. Thank you so much for your support, for your hard work. But we're not done. So let's talk about what's next, right? Next, we're focused on building good companies, period. End of story. Some of them may go on to become unicorns. Some of them may go on to become zebras. Some of them may go on to do $1 to $10 million in revenue. We want to focus on the framework that we know now works to build good companies. Next steps. Keisha Center was on earlier from SOCAP. Again, they're having their Spectrum Summit next week, June 9th through the 11th, an amazing opportunity to go even deeper on these topics and really connect with movers and shakers in this space from around the world. Then in July and August, we will begin to really build out the MVP and launch the pledge. So really by August, our plan is to really launch the MVP for this pledge, and we want people to commit. I'll get to that in a second. In July, we're happy and pleased to announce that Goody Nation has received funding from the Walton Family Foundation to take this exact same framework, introducing, in this case, K-12 tech talent training programs like coding boot camps and things like that focus on students of color, young women of color, and connect them to influencers, to large companies, and to funders. And so in this case, we are looking to, and these are in Atlanta, the goal here is to get more of our young women and students of color into pathways for deep tech. So we really look forward to that 10-week program. And then in August, we're going to partner with Pittsburgh Yards to take 10 small businesses and really enable them through technology to scale up a little bit, again, using the very same framework. I'm super excited about expanding the type of organizations that we support. We'll be looking to you all for assistance and starting to bring in a lot of other organizations and people as well. And then we'll bring everyone together, the entrepreneurship and VC community, the K-12 community, and then also the small business community. Additionally, we're going to launch a tech storyteller in residence program, and then work with tech storytellers here in Atlanta and across the country. Those are bloggers, podcasters, videographers, photographers, journalists, reporters, in a media training institute to help our founders tell their story better. And finally, if there is a silver lining to COVID-19, and as Justin and Barry pointed out earlier, a lot of pain, I wish it really wouldn't have happened, but it does allow us to expand our relationships, to connect our startups here in Atlanta to people across the United States and across the world. And then also we can start to help startups outside of Atlanta then connect to opportunities here in Atlanta as well. So these are the things we're working on next quarter. So from an action standpoint, we definitely want you all to do something big. we're asking people, and we're really speaking to the choir for the people actually on this webinar, but we know we are recording it. So if you're watching this whatever time in the future, just know that we want you all to commit. We're looking to commit, we're looking to raise a fund, so to speak, of influencers, both on the micro level and the macro level. We're looking at connecting to corporate employee groups so that we can begin even deeper relationships with our startups. Tactically, we're looking to connect to alumni groups from awesome universities, again, to deepen those relationships. And then we're also looking to investors to commit to monthly office hours as well. Additionally, we're always looking for partners here at the Intentionally Good Project to conduct trainings, to do, how do you do business with Verizon, or how do you do business with this company? Again, to partner for relationships' sake with alumni groups and things of that nature. And then quite honestly, we have an awesome team here. So we're looking to raise money either through sponsorship or through individual donations. So thank you all, everyone, for spending about an hour and 40-ish minutes with us today. This has been awesome. I've been brought to a little bit of tears. I don't know if you could tell, but we know that this process works. The process works. And so now it's all about doubling down and getting the resources that we need so that we can provide more resources to everyone else. Quite honestly, this is an ecosystem initiative. It's led by Goody Nation, but it's really owned by the community. So thank you all for your hard work, for your sacrifice of your time, your talent, your treasure. And we look forward to the next 12 months as well. So signing off here, go out there and make some stuff happen. And the time is now. Thank you again. Bye-bye.